You're listening to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I'm Allison Boyle, aka She Dreams of Alpine, and this is the show that's dedicated to all the adventurous spirits out there who have either been transformed by the outdoors or are interested in what it looks like to step into a new, adventurous, and courageous kind of identity in their life. It doesn't matter what your background is in the outdoors, what age you're starting at, or where you grew up. If you're curious about the outdoors and using adventure as a way to reinvent yourself, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing all kinds of personal adventure stories, lessons I've learned from the mountains, teaching what I know about the outdoors and leadership, and interviewing some amazing adventurous women all along the way. I've been coaching women on becoming safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpackers and leaders of their own adventurous lives since 2018, and I know exactly what big fears and self-doubts can pop up along the way. I have so much to share with you, so let's dive in. All right. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I am really glad you're here today because this episode has actually been a long time coming. I've been wanting to record this for a while, and I think that right now, during, one of our, biggest times of the year, it's January right now that I'm recording this, January 2026. We're getting ready for our Your Adventure Era Challenge, something that we host every single year. If you haven't registered for that, you can go check it out at shedreamsofalpine.com/challenge. But I think it's just, this episode is so relevant to the conversation that we're having there at that challenge, which is, as the time of this recording, it's taking place next week. So January 12th, 2026, we kick off that challenge. So again, if you haven't registered yet, go to shedreamsofalpine.com/challenge. It's free. All of the information about that is on that page. Now, back to this episode. So I want to talk about something that sits at the very heart of my work. So this is also something that is in the name of one of my programs and one of my core programs, something that people always have opinions about, and something that I think a lot of women really want to claim more of into their life, but aren't sure how to, or kind of have this weird, maybe I'm, not allowed to. It might not be exactly in that terminology, but they have a lot of shoulds around it, right? I should be this way. I should be that way. So today we're going to be talking about what it actually means to be a badass, and more specifically, be a backpacking badass, because I'm an outdoor coach, a backpacking educator, and I want to give this a backpacking spin. I think backpacking is foundational to everything that you do in the outdoors. Becoming a confident and self-sufficient backpacker is foundational. So today we're going to talk about what it actually means to be a backpacking badass and how to become one in 2026 and beyond. And I'm not talking about the Instagram version, the one that you always see posted in reels, or I'm not also talking about the extreme, fearless, gets to the top of all the 7 summits, version. But I'm talking about the real thing. And if you've ever thought of, I love the idea of being a badass, or being somebody who sees herself as a badass, but I just don't think that's me, or I don't see myself as that person, it might sound a little differently to you, but something in that regard, this episode is for you. Okay, so first off, I want to kick it off with a funny story. So a while back, this still happens to us now, but this first kind of came up for us, me and my team, back in 2022. And I remember because I wrote a whole email about this because it was just too ironically funny that we got the same feedback from we got some emails from different men on our email newsletter list, and it was all around the same time. So that was what was really funny. These were very long emails. They were very concerned individuals, and they were writing to let me know that I should really reconsider using the word badass in the name of my program. So for those of you who don't know me, or maybe this is your first episode, the name of our coaching program, our backpacking program, is called Become an Outdoor Backpacking Badass. And they were writing to let me know that I should take that word out of the name of my program. And it wasn't very ladylike. It would turn people off, that it wasn't necessary. They were telling me all their reasons, right? One guy, I even remember this was wild. One guy even wrote us a whole long email, and he checked to see if I had trademarked the name, which I had, and I had at the time, and it's still trademarked. And my team and I couldn't stop laughing about these emails. They're fascinating. Humans are fascinating. The advice they give you, the things they're compelled to tell you, the feedback they want to give you when you didn't ask for it. It always comes up, especially as an entrepreneur, especially if you're putting yourself out there all the time, which we are as a business. But here's what I've learned after years of doing this work. People will always have opinions about how you show up, and particularly how women should show up, how we should speak, how bold we should be, how confident is too confident, how much space we're allowed to take up. And backpacking, being a woman in the outdoors, being self-sufficient, and being a woman who doesn't necessarily need a man to keep her safe on the trail, even if she loves to backpack with the men in her life. Because don't get me wrong, I love going out trips with my husband, with other guy friends that I have. This isn't about that. It's just about knowing you have your own back, whether you're by yourself, you're with a man, or you're with a group of diverse humans, whoever you might be with, right? It brings up all of that stuff in really interesting ways. So today I want to spend this episode reclaiming this word badass, not to be edgy or rebellious for the sake of it, but to define it very clearly and groundedly and intentionally, and give you my version of it so that you can really claim it and own it for yourself as well. So first, let's define the word badass. So I actually looked up the definition online on the Googles, and one definition says a tough, uncompromising, and intimidating person. But another more urban kind of definition of the word badass says someone who does what she wants, when she wants, and where she wants to. And at first glance, I think both of those definitions, like if you just read them at face value, can maybe feel very masculine or very aggressive. But when I think about those definitions in the context of women and the outdoors and backpacking, I actually love them. Because to me, tough doesn't mean being reckless. Uncompromising doesn't mean being inflexible. Intimidating doesn't mean being loud or pushy or anything like that. Instead, these things mean to me, they mean being resilient. They mean being self-led. They mean being a grounded kind of a person, and the outdoors in particular, willing to make decisions and be a leader, and willing to be misunderstood, because that's part of it too. I know so many of my clients, tell me that their friends and families don't quite get why they want to do the things that they want to do, and you've got to be willing to be misunderstood. All right. So here's my definition, and this is kind of the thesis of this entire episode. But a badass, or rather a backpacking badass, is someone who knows she has her own back no matter what. And this is not because nothing will go wrong, but because when something does go wrong, she trusts herself to respond and to rise to the occasion. Now, before we go into that more, I want to clear something up right away. So I want to talk about what being a backpacking badass is not. Being a backpacking badass is not being fearless. It's not being super extreme. It's not being reckless. It's not being the fastest person on the trail. It's not being the strongest. It's not, getting to the top of the summit at all costs, no matter what, right? And having summit fever. And it's definitely not pushing through when your gut says no, ignoring those safety signs like weather, fatigue, anything that is compromising to your safety. And it's not proving something to anyone. Okay, that version of badass has kept a lot of women out of the outdoors because they think that's what they need to be in order to be badass, in order to go on these epic adventures. And I want to define it as kind of the opposite, right? A backpacking badass plans to continue and plans to turn around. Like she always knows what her pivot plan will be. She doesn't confuse like grit with recklessness, right? She has grit, but she's not reckless. She knows when to push and she knows when to pivot. These are very important traits to have when you are in the outdoors. And she doesn't see a successful trip as like, like not summiting, or, if she didn't summit, she wouldn't see it as a failure, or finishing the trail without any pivots. Like a successful trip is sometimes knowing you have to make the call to turn around, or knowing that the plan has to change a little bit because of whatever reason, the weather, or somebody gets sick or hurt, or you're just not feeling great about it. She knows that can mean a successful trip too. And that is like real leadership. It's real self-trust. And that is true badassery. So to kind of recap that, being a badass is not about being extreme, reckless, or this invincible, like outdoorsy person. But being a badass is more about being prepared, self-trusting, willing to try, and also willing to turn around at the same time. Okay? So maybe you're on board with this definition of a backpacking badass, but you currently don't see yourself there, and you're wondering to yourself, how do I become this version of myself, this backpacking badass version? So the most important thing to remember when you are stepping into the place where you want to become a backpacking badass, you want to create badass results, is that you also need to create some badass goals, and you need to become that badass person that goes after them, right? And doing that really comes down to one thing. It comes down to making powerful decisions from the future that you want to create. This adventurous future, this future version of yourself that you see, right? So if you want to be a badass on the trail, and even in your life outside of, backpacking goals, you have to get really, really good at making decisions and seeing yourself as a person who makes decisions. And all of your personal power comes from the decisions that you make and the decisions that you commit to and you stick to. So for example, deciding to apply for the permit for that trail that you've always wanted to go on, deciding to train for something and give it all you got and show up each week, like even if you're slow, and just trust the process, right? To decide to go on that trip, even when you're still a little bit nervous and you're having some self-doubts, to decide to learn everything that you can to become self-sufficient so that you always have your own back. And even in the moment decisions, like deciding to turn around, and doing it without shaming yourself and being really on board with whatever you decide. And in our upcoming challenge, so I mentioned it at the beginning of this episode that's going on right now, the Your Adventure Era Challenge, which again, you can register for at shedreamsofalpine.com/challenge. Each day of that challenge, I'm going to be walking you through how to make powerful decisions for your future adventurous selves. Okay, so on day 1, we're going to be deciding how you want to think in the face of fear and self-doubt ahead of time. On day 2, which is our planning day, we're going to be deciding what you want your adventurous year to look like, again, ahead of time. We're doing this powerfully. We're doing this ahead of time. We're thinking from the place of possibility. On day 3, we're talking about building your adventurous community. So many of you tell me that you would love to have more adventurous friendships, people who you go hiking and backpacking with, and you just don't know how to build that community. We're going to decide in that workshop how to go forward in actually committing to building that adventurous community. And so much of building an adventurous community is around deciding that you're going to do it and figure it out no matter what. So I'm going to talk more about that in day 3. Day 4 is all about deciding to get strong this year so that you can feel ready for all of those big goals that you have on your adventure plan. And our last day is like really a commitment to deciding to learn the skills that make you truly self-sufficient so that you know you always have your own back, which I think is the most powerful place to operate from when you hit the trail. Is like, no matter what, you always know you're going to be safe, you can handle it, and all of the things. You're self-sufficient. Okay? So each day of the challenge that we have coming up is an opportunity to make powerful decisions, and each decision that you make from your own personal power and your future adventurous vision is a badass move. This is how we get the momentum that we need to create the badass results that we want in our life. And a badass isn't afraid to make decisions just because there is a chance that she might fail, because that is always on the table. She makes powerful decisions knowing that failure is always on the table, but that she will be leaps and bounds closer to her goal if she goes for it anyways than if she had not made the decision at all to go for it. And you lose all of your power when you're too afraid to fail and you stay in limbo and you don't make that decision to move forward. So I remember the very first backpacking trip that I ever went on to go to the top of Half Dome in Yosemite National Park. That trip was a really powerful decision for me. I made the powerful decision to say yes to that trip, even though I was absolutely terrified. And at the time, I had no idea what I was doing when I said yes. Like I didn't know anything. I was brand new. I had so much to learn in between that moment I said yes and the moment the trip was going to happen. And I knew I might fail. I was like, I probably will be too slow. This will probably be too hard. All of the things. I had all the self-doubt. But that one yes, and I've talked about this story a lot on this podcast, so you can find an episode where I go into this more deeply. But that one yes, that decision changed literally everything for me. And it has led me to becoming the woman I am today, a backpacking and outdoor educator, a certified life coach who literally coaches thousands of women on how to become safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpacker. We have thousands of women signed up for our Your Adventure Era Challenge. This is the power of a decision. Like I would have never imagined this future for myself. But that one decision to say yes to a future that I was excited about led me to where I am today. So this is where you start. And maybe your first powerful decision is just to say yes to joining our upcoming free Your Adventure Era Challenge. And not just signing up for it, but also showing up for it. Each day, watching the replays or showing up live, extracting as much value as you can, doing the workbooks that we're going to give you, and getting as much as you can from that challenge. And then maybe your next powerful decision comes from all of that work. Like it reveals itself to you. Okay, this is where I know I want to step into next. And maybe you decide powerfully to join us inside of our Backpacking Badass program, which will be opening up on the 19th, January 19th, shortly after the challenge. And maybe you decide that because you refuse to let one more year go by where you don't make this adventurous life happen, and you want the support and you want the community and you want the tools and the skills to do so, right? And you're ready to step into becoming a backpacking badass, which is literally the name of our program. And then maybe your next powerful decision is then putting that backpacking trip, that one that you have been dreaming about, on the calendar, and not just like leaving it on your wish list or like maybe this will happen, but like actually put it on the calendar, maybe even enlisting a friend to put it on the calendar with you, right? I actually sent out an email the other day. It was like a few days ago, asking people on our newsletter, what are your big goals for 2026? Like if you could make one thing happen, what would that thing be? And we got hundreds of replies. And me and my team have literally responded to every single one of them. So thank you. If you were one of those people who sent us a reply, we really appreciate it. Because I wanted those replies because I wanted to show the variety of different dreams and goals, adventurous dreams and goals that women have on their list for 2026, because we're all starting in different places. Some people are just beginning and some people are further along in their adventure eras. And we wanted to display that in our day 2 when we talk about planning. So I'm really thankful for all of y'all's feedback, but some of y'all have some huge dreams. And, you know, huge for you too. Like even people who are like, I just want this to be the year that I finally do it. Like I finally put myself first. I put adventure on the calendar first. I get the support that I need to make it happen, right? And I want you to dare to dream big, and I want you to decide to go for it, okay? So that is a badass move, and this is how you create badass results. And some notes that I wanted to end this episode around on being a backpacking badass is like being a backpacking badass. It's not just a personality trait. It is literally a practice, right? Strength in your mind and your body and the skill sets that you have. This is something that you build through repetition. It's why in the Your Adventure Era Challenge, I talk about like we don't just have one typical like adventure era. So many of us who step into our adventure era maybe for the first time, it ends up becoming like a core value for us and a practice and something we recommit to each year. And you know, you don't just become confident first and then go on your first backpacking trip. You go backpacking, you start building the skills, and your confidence slowly is the byproduct of that. And you don't wait, you know, to go on the adventures until you fully trust yourself, right? Because it's hard. Our brains and like what we're actually capable of don't always match up. So sometimes we have a lot of self-doubt, even if we're really ready for the adventure. And you actually build your self-trust by showing up again and again and really like showing yourself that you can do this. And that is why training matters. And that is why practicing the skills matters. It's why your systems and having those dialed in matter. All of those things. And being a backpacking badass is also not about just looking the part. And it's not about doing only popular trails or well-known trails just for the clout, right? It's not about like having this list of things that only people know about. Because I knew some people who were just like, you know, they only wanted to do Mount Whitney, not because, you know, it was just popular and people would know it and that's why they wanted to do it. And if that's on your list, that's great. I think it's a great trail. But it's not just about that, right? And it's not just about having the lightest gear. It's truly about being a self-sufficient and self-sufficiency and not having to be dependent on someone else to feel safe, knowing that you don't need a friend, a partner, a guide to validate your choices and your decisions when you're out on the trail, knowing that you can lead yourself and having like this, when you invite people, like people literally feel safer around you when they're on hikes with you. Like that's the place I want to get you to. And it's not about being like overly bold or overly extreme. So your version of being a badass is like exactly what it's meant to be. And it's not about like extremeness or boldness or being faster or being stronger. It's about knowing deeply that you have your own back on the trail and in life. And I want to help you with all of this to create some really badass results in 2026 and beyond, to become a backpacking badass and the woman who knows she always has her own back no matter what trail she steps onto or who she's with or who she isn't with. You know, maybe you're going solo, or who shows up to a challenge on the trail with calm confidence that she can handle it safely and navigate that challenge with clarity, and, you know, just ease, right? And get to look back at the end of the year, like so freaking proud of everything that she has created and all the adventures that she went on because she was willing to make some badass, powerful decisions for the future she wanted to create. So whether you're listening to this episode now, and that means joining us in our upcoming Your Adventure Era Challenge, which again, you can sign up for at shedreamsofalpine.com/challenge. Or maybe it means joining us inside of the Backpacking Badass program, where we literally guide you step by step into this identity and this process. Again, our next enrollment is on January 19th. You can join our waitlist for that at shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist. Whatever it is, I and my team, we would love to help you enter your badass era and your adventure era and start to make this an identity that you can lean into and live into for the rest of your life. Because I really believe that it can change you and like take you places you never imagined. Okay. That is all that I have for today. Just something on my heart that I wanted to share. I wanted to live on the podcast. I hope you loved it. And we will talk again next week. Again, our challenge is happening January 12th through 16th. And you can sign up at shedreamsofalpine.com/challenge. And then our Backpacking Badass enrollment opens up on January 19th. And I'm so excited to work with all of you on creating some amazing plans and amazing goals for 2026 and really stepping into and embracing your badass adventure eras. All right, we'll talk next week. Bye. Hey, I wanted to thank you real quick for tuning into the show and listening all the way to the end. If you love this episode and you want deeper support in becoming a safe, confident, and self-sufficient hiker and backpacker, then head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist to learn more about our Backpacking Badass coaching program, where I teach you absolutely everything you need to know to be self-reliant on the trails and stop waiting around on others for the adventure invite. So I'd love to help you more in your journey of stepping into your adventurous identity, and that program is the absolute best place for us to start working together. So again, that's shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist, and you can learn all about it there. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you get to spend some time outside this week, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new episode. Bye.